All right, here we go. Thanks for joining. I see that we have a few people in here right now. I'm gonna, thanks for the like already. I'm gonna kill a little bit of time here. If you've read the description down below, it says that at about 10:30 or so, I'm going to talk about what it is that I'm needing help brainstorming. I want to give people a little bit of an idea, talk a little bit about it. But for right now, I'm just going to answer questions if anybody has any, and really just chit-chat about everything sound-wise that we have going on and what we're going to have coming up. I have a few fun videos, which if you saw my recent community post, I have one of these little doodads now. I made one of these. XLR dummy loads is what you basically would refer to them as. And I'm kind of ludicrous in my soldering. So I went a little nuts with it. But, when you're just listening to podcasts and listening to different things, you can do whatever you want. And that's kind of fun. Chat is open. If you have any questions, then feel free to ask. Don't know how long I'm going to be in here tonight. After about 10:30 or so, once kind of talk about what's on my mind. It will depend on how much feedback I get. If people like what I'm proposing and want to talk about it, then by all means. If you have no interest at all, tell me that. I'm looking for some honest feedback. A lot of the reason why I'm looking for feedback and don't just want to brainstorm this myself is because I've tried some things in the past that have not worked out very well. And I'm not too embarrassed to admit that that sometimes my intentions and thoughts have been better than the actual ideas themselves. So we'll see how well it is. We'll see how well. Sorry, I was just silencing my phone. We'll see how well the ideas go over. But for right now, I am sitting here. It is 10:02 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on July 24th. If you noticed in my thumbnail, my hair was dry. Now it's wet. It's because my hair has been getting a little bit long. And it's been very long in the past. And we're talking down to almost belly button all the way around, in the back and sides and everything. Used to be really long. And when that happens, it gets very curly and it goes through a transition period. And that's kind of what's going on right now. Now, I'm Alejandro. Hey, good to see you in here. I don't yet know if I want to grow it out long again. I've always liked having long hair, but at the same time, I am getting older. And I do know that I'm balding, which I'm not the least bit ashamed of. I mean, it's... Hey, Travis, how's it going? It's very much something that runs in the family. It's something that, why do guys sometimes get ashamed of that? I mean, it's no mullet. I'm not Joe Exotic. But it's something that I've always liked having long hair. And my hair used to, back in high school and college and whenever I had long hair, it used to get a lot of attention from the ladies. Now, I am married now, so that's not necessarily my goal. But what I do really like is being able to drive down the road and just, having the hair just go nuts. It's my hair's curly by nature. I mean, you can see that it turns into little ringlets there. And when that happens, it goes completely crazy. And it's kind of funny. And I like the idea of having longer hair. The last time I cut it was probably about 12, 13, 14 years ago, maybe. It was shortly after I got married. And actually, it was shortly after my daughter was born, my first daughter. My second daughter's never seen me with long hair. She was probably not even a year old when I cut it. And my hair started thinning in the back, just like it is now. And my wife saw it thinning and said, "You're going to look like Gollum if you don't cut it short." And I was like, you might be right. My hair has now kind of leveled out at the range of my maternal grandfather, who he has, he's now deceased, but he had curly hair very much like mine. His it was not nearly as curly as mine, but he never really grew it that long. But his hair thins in the exact same place up above. I'm the least bit shamed of it though. Like I started to mention before, I don't know why some guys are ashamed of their hairlines. It doesn't mean you're any more or less a man. It doesn't mean that you're any more or less masculine. It just means that you have some goofy genetics, I guess, that like to play tricks on you sometime. Doesn't mean anything bad. If this wasn't, well, I should say, I could say something that was kind of funny, but I won't because it's this is a rated G stream as far as I'm concerned. Let's see. The best thing to do is use a pinch of salt with your natural shampoo free of chemicals, and that will keep the hair thick. Really? Won't that kind of make it feel kind of weird? You know what I use actually? There is a soap that was introduced to me when I was on Walking Dead by the script supervisor, Amy. It is wonderful as far as I'm concerned. It's not, I don't think, antibacterial. So if you're looking for an antibacterial soap, I don't think it works, but it's the peppermint hemp, whatever it is, Dr. Bronner's, I think. And I got like a gallon of this stuff and it was like $60, but it works extremely well. And it just a little bitty bit of it. I bought some of those things off of Amazon that are like the squishy, not squishy, the foaming things that you can fill it up and then squish it and it foams out in your hand. And a little bit goes a long way. This stuff is very slippery. And I tell you, on Walking Dead, I managed to avoid a lot of insect bites. A lot of people, about my first month I was there, I got eaten alive. And I was using bug spray and all kinds of stuff. And anytime I wore shorts, I would get eaten alive. And I have a very bad tendency of scratching bug bites. So they got really out of control real quickly. So I started to I was recommended this by the script supervisor and I started using it. And I tell you, you can use it in your hair and it feels really nice. It smells nice. It kind of, I would say it energizes you, but I'm not the kind of person that is overly woken up by that kind of thing. I'm actually, I do have, if you've watched my Sound Speeds podcast in the past, I do have an essential oil distiller in my car. And whenever I turn it on, I put peppermint oil in it. And I was hoping that it would keep me kind of more alert after a 15-hour day and I'm driving home. I mean, it didn't exactly work that way. I still get drowsy and that kind of thing, but who knows? Did you just say I'm not masculine because of my hairline? Podcastage. He's the same guy that seemed to think that on the live stream we recently did with Curtis Judd that I had said that it's because of my mic that I didn't sound like Mike Delgadio, which is not what I said. For a guy that listens, you don't listen very well. If that's what you're thinking. Anyway, there is baldness in the family too. Yeah, it's very common. Bandages in the house, life is complete. Scout's Honor, the peppermint hemp is really good. Yeah, I really like it. And I will tell you this also, after I started using it, bugs didn't really bother me anymore. Now, if you followed me for a while, you know that one of the things I always do is I cover up on set. I don't just, go shorts and t-shirt and that kind of thing and have to, smother myself with sunscreen. I use a lot of another one of the products I mentioned even in the Sound Speeds podcast. I do, I use the, SPF 50 sun gear. So, I mean, if I wear shorts, I would usually wear some sort of like long, I mean, it's not long underwear. It's what is it? It's almost like tights, I guess, but it's like an SPF, like a jogging type short, something, or like, when guys like work out, they wear the skin tight runner things or whatever. Those I would wear underneath my shorts, just so that way my legs would be protected from the sun. And I tell you, I never got sunburned. I would wear an SPF 50 hoodie or a long sleeve shirt or something like that underneath another shirt and that one would wick. So that way I would very easily wick away, because I do have a tendency of sweating a lot. And that was even when I was like in really good shape. if the more you sweat, the more it wicks, the more it cools. So it actually worked out really well to my advantage. And then I discovered the hoodie that Columbia makes. And just so that you know, if you are familiar with Columbia and you have the ability to get Columbia gear, if you work in the film industry, if you work in production, you can get discounts from Columbia. I can't remember if it's a 40% discount or 30, something like that. If somebody wants to look it up, I think it's on Columbia's website. If you just do a search for Columbia discount for outdoor workers or something like that, you'll see that they offer a discount, and you can easily get that if you work exterior. So if you're doing reality TV or you work in television or film, something like that, and you find yourself to be outside a lot, you can get a good discount on Columbia sun protection wear and other kinds of things. Because they like to take care of people, so they'll offer you those discounts. But what's cool is I started wearing that kind of stuff, SPF 50, and it always looked, people always like, dude, you're going to burn up. Well, you'd think that. But I was wearing shorts and a T-shirt with other things underneath it, and it would cover myself up. Now, my head, I would either wear, like, for a while, I would wear one of these, like, things that goes around here, and it was more form-fitting. I forgot what it's called. It's maybe Enduracool, the head thing, whatever that was. And that was a pretty cool thing because it would you could drench it, you could snap it, and the temperature would drop. Well, 100 degrees in the Georgia summer, humid heat, it would not stay cool very long at all. And by the time you took the thing off and snapped it and put it back on, it'd almost be, just wet and kind of uncomfortable. And so I stopped doing it that way and just used it for the SPF protection. And then I discovered, like, the fishing hats that have a visor like this, and then it kind of connects up with buttons right here, and it kind of goes down and covers up your neck. For the most part. I mean, it doesn't go in all areas. Like a little bit of area here and here would be a little less desirable. And that's when I found the Columbia hoodie. And that's when I really started to like that, because it would keep the back of my neck very well taken care of, and I could wear the other stuff and then wear sunglasses, and because of the face covering, it did really well for me. And so I'd be on set, and actors would be kind of like, what's this guy's deal when they first saw me? But then they would stop. They would just kind of be like, oh, that's just him? Okay, well, no worries then. And they wouldn't think anything of it. So it was kind of one of those funny things, like, at first it was, I guess, kind of like a novelty to them. They would seem kind of like, what's going on with this guy here? And people would tell me all the time, you're gonna, wearing all that black, you're gonna completely dehydrate yourself and whatever. No, I drink water, drink a lot of water. And I also gotta love the Zip Fizz. I'm a big fan of Zip Fizz. And I'm running out of it too. I can't believe it. I used to have a nice stash of it that back when I was like, I think, when did I start that stash? I would grab like a couple of them and I would use maybe one, maybe sometimes both. But I would sometimes occasionally, I'd bring all my things home and I'd wash it, or I'd take care of it and do maintenance like over a weekend. And usually that would mean dumping out the Zip Fizz. And so over the course of time, if I had an extra one or two in my bags, over the course of the months and months I would be working on shows, they would accumulate. And I think it was it Stranger Things? No, it was Walking Dead season 8 that I was given. They were throwing them out all over the place on set. So I'd usually carry a couple of them all over the place, and just I would constantly grab one. In the chest rig that I wear right now, I keep 4 different flavors of Zip Fizz that I could easily go in. And that reminds me, there's 4 Zip Fizz in there. Those are my emergencies, though. I don't know if I really want to go onto the emergency Zip Fizz stash, because I do consider them to be emergencies. But I will at least keep that as a possibility if I run out, because this stuff here, it's got vitamins in it, which is just plain wonderful, and it's a great supplement to my my natural vitamins that I take. So I strongly. What's my favorite flavor? I like. If I put it in water, which I don't normally do, I personally just like to just go straight with it. And I've done entire bottles of it that way, just if I need it to a quick boost real fast, because it has like, what is it, 205 milligrams of caffeine? It's quite a bit. I don't normally rely on caffeine. I don't need it to keep going. I don't need it to wake up in the morning. I'm not a coffee or, a big tea drinker for the caffeine. I can easily just have a decaf, cup of tea or something if I want to. And that's perfectly fine. I don't need it. So it's one of those cool things that if I take a Zip Fizz, it's because it's antioxidants. It's because it replenishes hydration. I mean, it is B12 energy, but it's basically, it doesn't have sugar in it, but it has other stuff in it. But it's mainly like extracts from leaves and, green coffee bean extract, grape seed extract, green tea leaf extract, things like that. And so it is natural, and it's and naturally gives you a nice little boost. But it also, if you need electrolytes, you don't need to power down a Gatorade or something like that. You can just take a little bit of the Zip Fizz and sip on it a little bit. So just take a little bit of Zip Fizz. Anyway, I love it. Let's play catch up here on the chat here. Use a Trader Joe brand. I'd like to hear about that one. I've seen a whole bunch of them. I know of Emergency. It's kind of like if you go straight with the powder, it doesn't have as much powder for one. It doesn't fizz as much, so it's not as fun. It's not as good, in my opinion, based on what it has in it. It also has sugar in it, and it kind of more like, kind of foams up, kind of weird. Zip Fizz is like putting an Alka-Seltzer in your mouth, how it fizzes up like crazy real quickly. But imagine like you broke it into little bitty pieces, then threw it in your mouth after, drinking some water. It's a very good amount of fizz. So, anyway, pretty awesome. I recommend shaving your head at Podcastage, and nobody knows your true hairline. Yeah. The big question is, what does Bandrew's hair look like? If you go back in his old videos, he's got hair. Then he started wearing the beanie. Who knows if he still has hair? I mean, you see a little bit sticking out down here, but for all we know, that could be built into a beanie. We don't know. All right, what am I working on now? Anything upcoming? Sadly, COVID-19 canceled 3 shows for me. I was going to be working on something called the Untitled Goonies Reenactment Project. It was supposed to start March 17th, which ended up being the day that my wife first showed symptoms of COVID-19. And it took her about 6 weeks or so to recover. So if you didn't catch my last stream, then there you go. A little bit of tidbit of knowledge of something that I was going through for a while. But it was a show all about a group of people that wanted to reshoot the Goonies shot for shot. I read most of the script and I stopped because it looked like everything was going to be shutting down. I was like, oh, come on. If I finish the thing, I'm going to be overly excited, so I'm at least not going to do that. So that was the first show I was going to be doing. Then that was a pilot for a show, and it has since completely vanished. It is no longer going to be a thing. And then there was another television show. It was a shorter show. It was going to only last about 2 months, and that was going to take me into Black Lightning season 4. Well, hopefully when that comes back, I'll still be a part of that because I like the show. I really love the people. The cast is just wonderful. And when you're working in the film industry, working 12 or more hours a day, it is really nice to have a stellar cast where you just love everybody. You love the crew. Everyone just seems to be having a great time. And that's, I mean, I don't know if you're into DC Universe shows or, part of the Arrow network or the whole Flash and Batgirl, Supergirl, Batwoman, whatever the whole thing is. Black Lightning is now part of that. And it's the whole superhero DC thing. But I tell you, the show was a lot. The people, to me, made the show awesome. And that's a really good thing when you're going to be working on a 7-month-long show and you don't know if you're going to be like into the show. You don't know if you're going to like the show. You don't know if, anything. Now, I did watch the show before it started, but I tell you, the people on it I really enjoyed. I mean, pretty much everybody was just someone that I enjoyed seeing every day, and that says a lot. As for now, though, Eric, no. I have, ever since March 17th, I have been non-essential. Matthew for McKever. Awesome. Thanks for the help on the recent emails. I'm one helped with the neat questions about the defective King Bee. Really appreciate your help. Glad to do it. And thanks for the £10 donation. I appreciate that. The thing I was going to say, though, is I'm considered non-essential because television and film people are right now, which is kind of interesting because think about how much television and film you have watched. If you've been watching a lot of television and film, you would probably consider television and film people to be essential. But who am I to say whether I'm considered essential or not? Believe me, I'm itching to get back on set. I am looking forward to it. And I cannot wait to get back on set. Yes, and YouTube. But still, man, I would love to get back on set. I miss it. I miss, a lot of fun. But friends of mine that are getting back on set and doing commercials mainly, maybe a day or two of reality TV, something like that, they're saying the industry's different. It's changed. There's only been a few people. I think Travis, who's in chat right now, he had a day that he told me about that he was on set, and he was the only person taking the PPE seriously, the personal protective equipment. And I know a script supervisor who recently did a commercial, and they were told everyone stays in your car until a medic comes by and checks your temperature. They get out, socially distancing. They had to keep themselves completely away. Director and script supervisor, producers, everybody was staying distant. And the second day, I think they were still taking it seriously, but it wasn't as strict as it was the first day, probably because the environment changed. But anyway, it's going to be very interesting to see. The unions have already discussed what's going to happen and safety guidelines and things for when we come back in and start doing production again. But what has not been discussed is studios making their requirements and how they're going to be doing everything when it starts back up. Because Warner Brothers, Paramount, BET, everybody is going to be having to come up with their own studio guidelines regarding what they're willing to do and how they're willing to do it. There's been talk of maybe paying sick pay. So that way people, if they're sick, they don't come in and potentially run the risk of getting people sick. Because that's one of the big things that a lot of people have an issue with is if you're on the call sheet and you're like, well, geez, I don't want to not go into work because they're expecting me to be there. So suddenly they will go to set and then they'll get people sick. Well, another thing is, like, if you're outside here in the South and you run and you're running through the woods and stuff, people are maybe going to walk through not ibuprofen. They're going to maybe walk through poison ivy. And if that's the case, you go and take your hand and you put it inside the water cooler then, before you realize that you have poison ivy on your hands. You can make a whole lot of people get poison ivy on your hands. You can very easily go over and put your hands on food, put your hands on, anything at Crafty. But now things are being handled a little bit differently. We'll see what happens. Okay, let's see. Yes, I was calling out Bandrew, and I think he's gone now. He's probably just popped in just to say one little thing and then zapped away to at least have his name represented in the chat here. Get Bandrew in here. Well, that's okay. Wife loves Zip Fizz. Costco generally has a great price. Here we have a stash. I love that. My favorite flavor is Zip Fizz. There is a lot of good ones. I usually, because they come in a 30-pack, I will get the 30 packs if I have to get them. Sound Utility on my last show, which I don't know if anybody saw the TikTok video of the guy talking to his dad. His dad was going out drinking, and he says, "Oh no, do you want to get COVID-19? Because that's how you get COVID-19." If you've seen that video, that was my Sound Utility. That's Nick, who I call Cinderella. If you've caught any of my other streams, he is a great guy, love him to death, and he actually gave me as a wrap gift off of Black Lightning Season 3 a whole thing of Zip Fizz, and I was like so pleased. and now my stash is running low. It's that box. That box was, the most recent thing I was given. So I started to slowly, eat through my, use my ZipFizz and eat through them. And now I'm on my last, I think, 7. So time to reorder. Anyway, I do like the black cherry a lot. It's a great flavor. I think there's a coconut that somebody gave me at one point. The cherry one, though, I tell you, is a really good one. I've only had like one of those because it came as a sample in the pack of 30. But between the grape, the fruit punch, and the orange, if I put it in water, I prefer the fruit punch. If I just go straight with it, I prefer grape. Even though grape has a really weird aftertaste, it doesn't bother me. I like it. Anyway, so there's talking about the ZipFizz. Aaron, if you're still here, hello. Is this real and live? Is this just a fantasy? No, I'm here. Let's see here. I have a sound question for you before I forget. I'm going back to work July 10th. Lucky. Are you required to take a daily COVID-19 test? If not daily, that's going to depend. It's going to depend on your show. You very well could be required to. It looks like that's been a recommendation by quite a few people. Take a test, like when you first get out of your car and you walk away from crew parking, if they don't come over to your car and actually check you. It looks like they might be checking for your temperature. Now, I can tell you, having had my wife who actually had it, her temperature wasn't just up. It also was down. After the first 5 days or so, I think, of the temperature going up to about as high as 102, and then she'd usually take some Tylenol. Because if you recall, back in March, there was a whole big thing. I think in France, they said if you take ibuprofen, it makes the effects worse. Well, I don't know if that was true. I don't think it was. It was found to be, and I did not know it was true at the time or not. So we stopped taking ibuprofen in the house. And at the time, I just had some dental surgery. And it was the only thing. I'd gotten some prescription stuff, a muscle relaxer, something that had codeine in it, a whole bunch of other things, but none of it worked except for just regular over-the-counter ibuprofen. So I basically just forget all the rest of the stuff, just give me ibuprofen. And then wouldn't you know it, they said, COVID-19, don't take ibuprofen. I was like, no, this is the one thing that's working for me. So if you look back at my content in March, pretty much every single time through... probably through early April, starting Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day, my mouth was in severe pain, like almost constantly. So, I mean, I could share pictures and stuff of me just in pain, but, if you care to see it. But it was one of those things that it took a while for me to recover. But ibuprofen was one of the very few things that would actually help me. So anyway, I haven't gotten tested, or nor have I presented any symptoms. Yeah, you could be asymptomatic. I am. I mean, we didn't isolate my wife when she got it, and it took her 6 weeks to recover, at least as far as I can tell. I mean, knock on wood. Where's some wood? Oh, yeah, there's some behind there. Oh, come on. There you go. Knocking on some wood because I don't want to get it. But it appears that so far, Todd Weaver's here. He doesn't care for COVID. So far, it looks like I could be asymptomatic. Let me just say could be. I hope I am. We will see, though. That doesn't mean I'm going around being, crazy and trying to, make things difficult for people if they have it or if they have a compromised immune system. I'm still, whenever I go out, I still use the mask and encourage my daughters to. I should say I do most of the time. There's an occasional time I don't, and that's usually if I'm going through a drive-thru or something. Anyway, I'm going to be making my announcement here soon and asking for some feedback. So let me try to see if I can power through this chat here. Do I like metal music? Some. I'm usually one of those people that prefers music that I like certain songs as opposed to actual bands. I mean, some of the classics, Motley Crue, old school, probably up through Dr. Feelgood, I really liked. I liked Kiss, pretty much every album except The Elder. Things like that. But I mean, it just depends. Lately, I still love the 80s though. I still love the energetic 80s music that like you would find at the club night, Limelight in Atlanta or Studio 54, that kind of stuff. That just when it's high energy and just dance stuff, it rings has a good place in my heart. Anyone else in the family get it? Nope, just the wife. regarding COVID. Any tips for replacing winning CAS? Placing winning the CAS Student Recognition Award. I do not. Alarm Clock Films. I'm a member of CAS and have been for a few years, but I'm not an active member. As a boom operator, you can only be an associate, and I do not know what they look for. I do not. I know the criteria, but I don't know how to make yourself more eligible. What I would say is live, breathe, and eat sound. I do know one person who's won it. John Harton is a friend of mine. He won it and won a student. I think he was second place. He was one of the top 5 back in 3 or 4 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that. And he was one of the top 5. And I think he got a complimentary 1-year subscription to it as a student. And he's very involved in sound here in Atlanta. David 360 No Scope. I don't know what that means. And YouTube is her comment on watching streaming stuff. After 2 months of rallying in Australia, the arts finally got up a benefits package today. Very good. I'm glad to see PJ. Things are getting going again. Todd Weaver says, hey, buddy. Hello, Todd. Todd was the very last person I worked with. Worked 2 days with him on Doom Patrol, and that's when they shut us down. That's when they decided to finish the show early and call it. That's when everything shut down for COVID. I was working with him on the Thursday and Friday night right before the whole thing started. And I miss being on set, even if it is with you, Todd. No, Todd is he's a good guy. He's also an extremely very trollish. He's a troll, which I absolutely love. Anyway, am I starting in Atlanta again? Are we starting in Atlanta? It's one of those things where we're technically going to be, we're technically able to. People are just not doing it. People just are not starting back up just yet because we're waiting to see what happens with the studios. Now, I do know some people that have done like days on, commercials. I do know some people that have done it a day or two on reality shows. But right now, there's just a lot of, I think a lot of companies are waiting to see what happens with the big studios and how they're going to be handling it before a big company like Sony or OWN, BET, anybody really decides that they're going to open back up and start doing television and film. They're going to have to come up with some sort of a criteria regarding PPE and coronavirus. I mean, they're just going to do it. Let's see. Hello, Midori. Midori Pro Videos. Got it. I was like, Pro Videos? What is Pro Videos? But Pro Videos. We started phase 4 in Chicago next week. Okay, very good. Now it's working using the NT1 today. I see. Yes. I've actually been using the NT1 since last week. As you know, I don't like to have microphones in my face, but the T-Bone SC400, I liked it because of its size. I liked it because it was a good bang for the buck type thing. And it was very small. Hey, Curtis, how's it going? Thanks for coming in. It was very small and just fit perfectly right here next to me. But if you watch my recent video about the goose arm, after doing that video, I recorded some voiceover and I just was not overly happy with it, with the new positioning. And I even tried like it showed in the picture of it coming in from above. And so I decided to start mixing around and playing around with some different microphones. Right now it's the NT1. I've had sanitation hands for a fourth part of this crew who helped grip cables in DIT with a little bit and then came everything separate for the talent. Yeah. Zip Fizz is not like seltzer water. No, it's something that you add to water and it fizzes up and it turns it into it's kind of like a flavor additive, except that it has hydration. It has different, it says 0 grams of sugar, B12 energy, hydration, multivitamins. It's got like 205 milligrams of caffeine. And that I don't really care as much about, but what I do care about is the electrolytes. It really comes in handy if you're doing a TV show outside and you do not have Gatorades or Powerades available to you, because you can easily grab a Zip Fizz. And you know the rule: if you're outside in like 100-degree heat or something like that, maybe it's a little bit different out west. And if Curtis is still here, he can maybe give some insight as to that. But I remember when I was out west and it was dry heat, it's totally different from wet heat like what we have here in the in Georgia. I mean, it's extremely hot and it's humid. So 100 degrees normally in the summer heat, and then it's humid. So if that's the case, you really need to have about 3 bottles of water. They usually say at least 1 bottle of water per hour. And every 3, you need to have something with electrolytes. Have a Powerade, have a Gatorade, something like that, just to stay with your electrolytes. Because you know, it's not enough just to hydrate. You also have to keep the electrical pulses going through your body and the synapses going through your body. And if you have too much water and not enough salt, then you'll end up, not functioning nearly as well. So usually I'll have a lot of salt on set too. Anyway, let's go on. Because I love that. Let's see. Cherry is best. Yeah, Cherry is awesome. Sorry, but wife caught it awful. She's recovered. Todd, I don't care for COVID. I guess X80 Stamps had a lagging issue or something like that. Well, that was dumb. I unplugged the headphones and was listening to this I don't know what that means. Then Curtis says hello. Is saying hello at Curtis. Curtis. Lived in New York for a while, and the heat out west is very different. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, Curtis, but in the desert where there's not much humidity, and I've been out there, it's been a while. I went out there in July, I think summer, the week of 4th of July, I think it was 2002 and 2003. We took road trips. And I was working on a show called Necessary Roughness, and I did season 2 and season 3, and they did not want to pay the 4th of July for vacation for us. So what they decided to do is release us for an entire week, so that way they didn't have to pay us. They could say, oh, we're taking a hiatus week, even if we wrapped like 2 weeks later. So my wife and I took our 2 older daughters, because they were the only ones born at the time, on a road trip, a week-long road trip. We left Saturday, came back on Sunday. And out there in the summer heat, it was dry and very different. So, when you're used to humidity, your nose, for example, is a little bit different. And when it starts to dry out there in the West, it can make your sinuses a little on the raw side. It's got one of those weird things that you kind of, I guess, will get used to regionally. Like when I used to go out to, in one of my former lives, I worked as I was a lead photographer for a professional photography company. And our headquarters were based just outside of Minneapolis and called Eden Prairie, Minnesota. And the very first time I went up there in the winter, it was negative 19 degrees with a negative 39 degree wind chill. And I tell you, you want to talk about cold? In Georgia, I think it was like 71 degrees when I jumped on the plane. And I had everything packed away in my bags. And I carried it on because I didn't want to be there without, cold weather gear. And when I got there, I remember, that little gap that's around the side of the airport when you walk through the airplane to the little, tube that you go into the thing. Well, I tell you, that hit me kind of like, like a deep freeze, like a meat freezer or something like that. It's like, wow, that's cold. And then when I went outside, I was like, I was going down to get on the shuttle, and I said, I'm going to see what it's going to be like if I go outside. And I want to see how long I could stand it. So I walked outside. There's this dude in a big park. I couldn't even put his arms down, kind of like the kid in a Christmas Story. And I tell you, it was outside. It hits you really, really hard and aggressive. And I tell you, I was only out there for about 30 seconds before I was like, I got to go inside. So I go inside. I get my layers on. I go outside. And I'm talking to the guy. And even then, as I'm talking to him, after only a couple of minutes, I start to feel like I need to blow my nose. And I'm like, what is going on here? And I kept doing this. And the guy finally, because all I could see from him, it was like, Kenny at South Park, or those, because it was such winter gear. All you could see is this little bitty thing. And he had a big mustache. And and he told me, he said, it's so cold there that what happens is the inside of your nose, the humidity and the condensation on the inside of your nose freezes. And it makes you feel like you need to blow your nose. Because the second I walked inside, it all warmed back up again. I was like, oh, that's really weird. My nose is back to normal. As soon as I go back outside again, after about a minute, it's all freezing. So it's one of those weird things I guess you get used to. But anyway, Scratch is also a good hydration mix also. Good to know that none. I've seen none as I've been doing searches on ZipFizz. I need to actually bring up Amazon and see if the price is better at Costco or at Amazon. Definitely in the southeast Nebraska, you definitely need a lot of hydration and electrolytes. Hello, Curtis. How are you? Says Aaron. Oh, yeah, we're talking week-long hiatus, birds, cheap, cheap, cheap. Reaper blog. Oh, hey, how's it going, man? Great to see you in here. I guess we have 26 people in here. So I should stay on top of chat a little bit better. About to make my announcement here. I got 4 more messages to go through here. Hi, Aaron. What's going on here? Blah, blah, blah. Like a blast freezer. And sounds so insanely comfortable. Uncomfortable it was. Okay. So here is what I was brainstorming. So far, my internet hopefully has been cooperating. We had some internet issues here for a while, which is why if you caught the stream that I did with Curtis and Mike Delgadio and Bandrew, I was popping and crinkling a little bit, and I don't know if y'all have experienced any of that. No one has said anything in chat tonight. So far, so good. Now, that's probably because for a month and a half, I was pretty aggressive towards Charter. I was like, because I'm a former technician for Earthlink, and I also was a former technician for Arthur Anderson before the whole Enron thing took him down. But one of the things that I was very aggressive about is how I felt that the internet should have gone. It was just a little crackling. Okay, well, thank you. Clear now. 720 is what I'm streaming at, Reaper Blog, and the reason why is because my internet's been bad, and I don't want this to go completely garbage if it doesn't have to. I'd rather stream at 720 and have it be okay than stream at 1080 and have my internet connection say, you know what, forget it, it's now going to go to garbage. So it's a little on the low side, and bear with me. But yeah, the internet is something that was driving me crazy for a while, and I ended up getting it fixed, I think, but then my router is completely shot. As soon as I fixed everything, I called Charter, and they were like, well, factory reset everything. Okay. And I went ahead and did my router too. And after I did that, it ended up catching and automatically, it had not been doing it before, but it decided to suddenly start to do what they if you're familiar with internet stuff, quality of service. It has automatic quality of service. So my 400 megabits internet up and down, or down and like 25 up, is now reduced to about 1 up and 20. I would say 25 down, but I think it's now 20 is what it gives me. And I don't understand why. It seems to be something that Netgear routers now do. And it's the Netgear Orbi. It was, when we got it like a couple years ago, it was like $300 or $400, and it was top of the line. It was like, it's got a high bandwidth data backbone, and then it has all these little satellites that basically route through the fast, high speed, high bandwidth line, and then it goes out. Now it's, thanks to their automatic quality of service, it's complete crap. So anyway, so let me throw out this idea. This is what quality of service is, what QoS is. It's something that you can use if you want to, if you like do a bunch of live streaming, for example. You could easily say, I'm going to do quality of service and shut down everything else in the house. You're not going to use the upward bandwidth, the upload bandwidth. I'm going to be using that, so it'll limit everybody else's. Or you can say at a certain time, kill my daughter's phone because she should be asleep, or something like that. You can go in there and set different speeds or functionality based on MAC address, things like that. That's quality of service. Hello, Kevin. Had same happen, round and round, finally replaced the router and other crap. I didn't understand. Yeah. Well, I understand it. It's just annoying. And it's annoying because they decided that they were going to upgrade it. So I went back through Netgear's old firmwares, and I started to install them and see if I could find the point that was stability and no quality of service. But unfortunately, I think that even the old firmwares now are automatically doing quality of service, which is complete garbage. I was bad about a month ago. Couldn't stream until I reset all my gear. Yeah. Netgear has an issue with running their QoS and stateful firewall. Let's see. I've been here since the start of streaming. There have been some crackling every down and then. Yeah. All right. Now it's now like 14 minutes past what I was going to talk about. If you've seen the Sound Speeds podcast. I have tried to do a podcast. I originally decided I was going to do 10, study the results, and see how well it did. Well, I don't want to say it was a complete failure, but looking at it, most of the time people started and just like they normally do when they watch videos, it starts high and then starts to reduce and go lower and lower and lower as people watch. But then I did notice that there was increases in certain segments. Like if I looked at the timestamps and corresponded to where people started to watch, one of the segments was story time that did really well, and then another one was something sound. Not surprising considering SoundSpeed's podcast. Those were the two most popular segments, and I looked at that, and I decided to do the 10th episode without camera. So I basically went completely black on the screen and just had the SoundSpeeds logo. I think it was starting big and shrinking down. And it did okay. It didn't really seem the performance did not seem to change very much, but whether you saw me or just listened. So that was kind of weird. But then I think it was like New Year's or something like that. And I think I've done 11 of them as of now. There was a 12th one that I actually wrote out and I was going to do as just sound only. But then after writing it, I kind of got out my fire in the system, and it's sitting there on the desktop. And then I said, you know what? I don't need to do it anymore. Pretty sad, huh? Actually, it's almost the same way with my 32-bit floating point video, which I've had it written since before the whole COVID-19 thing. I think I wrote it 6 months ago, if not farther, and I just have not gotten around to doing the voiceover for it. It's going to be in the same format as the EIN video I recently did. So it's going to go black after a couple seconds, and it's going to just graphically tell the story. And I think that's going to be the right approach for the 32-bit floating point video. Anyway, so the podcast idea, I was thinking about what should I do and how should I do it? And then the big thing is about the SoundSpeeds podcast is it's slowly growing and people would occasionally see it and stuff like that. The biggest issue I had was trying to come up with something new and kind of interesting that would actually capture people's attention and want to do it. I want to do something that would be fun, that would be informative. And I don't know if having it on a completely separate channel is worthwhile, especially considering that, it's just kind of me goofing off. It's not really, it was something I was doing kind of for fun and to see if anybody, thought it was fun too. But then it hit me a couple of weeks ago, and then it really I started to brainstorm it. I just kind of went out of sight, out of mind for a while. And then I started thinking about it. I get a lot of emails from people asking for advice. And I spend a lot of time responding to those. There's been people that have written me so many questions that I am just like going through and I'm like, I don't want to sit here and write for an hour. I don't want to just say, figure it out. I don't want to just completely be whatever. I do like helping people. That's one of the reasons why I really started this channel. And I do know as the channel slowly grows bigger, I won't be able to answer as many questions anymore. But one of the things that occurred to me is I was talking to Bandrew the other day, and he said, might as well, he actually said that one of the things he does is he gets questions and he puts it into his podcast. And that really made me think that's something that I could do. I get a lot of questions. I might as well answer them in some sort of a podcast form because I keep getting the same questions over and over again. As a matter of fact, Erin, who's in here right now, she wrote me not long ago and was talking about 32-bit floating point after watching my video that was 2 days ago released about fireworks. And she started talking to me about her world. Well, it's funny. She wrote me after someone else asked me that, but they asked it in a different way. And then right after her, 2 more people sent me emails. And it wasn't the kind of thing where I could just copy and paste responses. Some of the information I probably could have, but it was one of those things that by the time I looked at it and said, okay, copy this and then paste it, and then, I need to add this. It was one of those things that was just going to be quicker for me to respond. And so I'm just, typing away. And I was thinking, And so I ran this by Bandrew, and he seemed to like the idea. And I said, you know what, I'm going to ask people in a live stream, or ask people what their opinions are. But if I were to do that, because I spend a lot of time responding to questions, and a lot of them are repeats. After all, that's one of the things that I started SoundSpeeds for, is I teach a lot of classes in the real world. And a lot of the times I'm asked questions and I answer the same question over and over again. And I finally decided I was going to do SoundSpeeds. Originally I signed on, I said I'm going to do 100 episodes. And in that time, I decided I was going to do a lot of the things that that I'm asked questions about. And that way I could say, watch this video. And I don't have to answer it over and over again, because a lot of there was one time I was answering questions and I had a group of like 4 or 5 people in front of me. And I answered one question, and then I went to the next person who was completely zoned out and asked the exact same question he just did. It's like, you couldn't even, if you're standing here in front of me, you're just waiting your turn, not listening to someone else's answer, and you just asked me the exact same thing. So I was like, I got to now repeat the exact same thing I just got through saying. And I did, because, I'm that kind of a guy, but I didn't want to continue having to do that. One of the reasons I started SoundSpeeds, because a lot of the times I can teach people in the real world, but I can't teach them worldwide. So that's one of the reasons why I started doing it, and try to teach people, because I'm a big advocate for knowledge is something that collectively we as humans, and one of the reasons why we're the most sophisticated life form here on this planet, is because we have the ability to learn from our mistakes and to teach and to educate, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel every day, so that every generation does not have to reinvent the wheel. And one of the reasons why we're able to progress and do as much as we do as people, going forward, and, you teach your children, you teach other people in classes and stuff like that, it really is helpful. And you're able to actually progress, not just technologically, but as people, you're able to become better people and that kind of thing too. So I was thinking about it, and if I were to do, I don't know how many I would order, because I did my initial test of the SoundSpeeds podcast, 10 episodes, and then I said, okay, well, I'm going to look at the results and study it and determine if I want to keep it going. But I didn't want to, because it just did not seem, even with the interest in those 2 segments, the Something Sound and the story time, it just did not seem to do as it did. It just did not seem to be an interest. A lot of people, I would have maybe 70 or 80 views, and I'd only have a total of like 5 hours of listening time. And for 70 or 80 views, it means a lot of people were skipping around. So I was like, you know what? That's not much different than my regular videos on SoundSpeeds. So I wonder if I were to do kind of like an answer desk. Instead of answering questions in email form, if I were to answer them in more podcast form. That's where I'm going with this. Because if I could easily put a camera, kind of like what this is right here, hopefully better quality than the Logitech C920. But if I were to do it and take the questions and just answer them and say, okay, so here's the first question, here's the second question, and then like maybe every night, if I get a question, throw it in the thing. And if I get like 1 or 2 questions at first, if people started listening, it would be on my main channel. It would be on SoundSpeeds, because it would be sound-related content. I talked to Bandrew about that and said, should I do a separate channel for it? He said, if it's sound content, then definitely keep it on SoundSpeeds. Would it be an additional thing? I think Curtis has done that kind of thing too. He has his regular reviews. He has his regular education content, but he'll occasionally do other things. I mean, I know he has Curtis Judd audio as well, but thinking about that, it might be something that could be informative. It might be something that other people could get some stuff out of those questions too. I know that when I watch Bandrew's BSP, Bandrew Says podcast, I listen to the whole thing, but one of the things that seems interesting is his take on answering questions. Sometimes I'll be like, and I have to type an answer and say, oh, you forgot this, or something like that. But he likes that kind of thing because it's interactive. And personally, I really I like the idea of potentially people getting feedback and then maybe opening it up for comments down below. And if I put it on the main channel, it would be my same audience potentially asking questions that would be received, and the audience would actually hear the answer, and it could be something that everybody could benefit from. So rather than me just having to say, oh, geez, I got to type this thing out for an hour, instead of doing that, I could just turn on a camera and say, whatever. Now, there seems to be some positive feedback about that. I'll go through this real quick here. And let me just get down and get caught up here, because the big question I have for you guys is if it seems to be a good idea and it should be something, I would create a template and I would basically respond to any question I get. I will be including this. I would probably do a separate video, kind of like you've seen in the past, where I've said, hey, if you'd like to participate in something, then shoot me an email. The very first one of those, by the way, that I did was I was trying to give away. I was not trying to do it to grow the channel. I was trying to do it to get interaction, and I actually put the word out there and said, let's have a cable wrangling competition. Whoever can wrap a 100-foot XLR the quickest and best would win $100. Second place would win $50. Third place would win $25. Well, I had just over 200 subscribers at the time, and I ran the contest for a month, did not have one submission. I couldn't give away money. How sad is that? If you would have taken it and wrapped it over your shoulder, I would have had to give it to you. Even though it would make me cringe to have to do it. But that was one of the things that I tried to do. I've tried to have some interaction things in the past. I tried the failed experiment that was what is that? It was with my sonic testing booth. Sonic testing did not work out the way I was hoping it would. I tried to do the thing recently where I know a lot of people were doing trying to, as soon as they were shut down for COVID-19, they were trying to do a lot of videos out of their house and trying to upload it to YouTube and getting discouraged that you could only get like 5 views in a week. Well, that's because everybody was doing the same exact thing. And there's a lot of people out there that could produce content and do it well, but you have no audience unless you happen to be doing this for a while. It takes a long time to gain momentum. I'm still not there. I mean, I'll do a video, we'll be sitting up there for, months, and then, and it will do well, and then somebody else will do it and they're a bigger channel. Boom, they hit, over top of my mine jumps down a notch, and then it jumps down a notch again when a bigger channel comes across. And it could be that it could be the channels are bigger. It could be that the tags are better according to Bandrew in the BSP. It's not so much about the tags anymore. So I mean, there could be a whole bunch of factors to it, but it's one of those things where going back to it, it was kind of difficult for people to put a video out there, and then they would get discouraged. So that's when I did the thing recently where I said, hey, if you'd like to produce a video for Sound Speeds, I had probably 4 people that were interested in doing that. I think I talked to each one of them for over an hour and helped develop their ideas, so that way it was still their project, but it would still fit within Sound Speeds and my audience and that kind of thing. And not one of them turned it in. Only one of them actually responded to me when I wrote back emails, because I said, how long will it take you to do? And people would say, oh, a week from Friday. So cool, no problem. And I'd shoot an email, and you'd swear it went into the abyss a month later. Anyway, kind of interesting. Let me play catch up here and see what some ideas are, because I'm looking for brainstorming. I'm brainstorming here, looking for some feedback and some ideas. I'm also looking for a name for this. Whatever the podcast would be, I'm looking for a name, because I mean, I thought about Sound Speed's Answer Desk, but then that would be sad podcast. Doesn't sound very good. And then I was thinking, what was the other one that I came up with? Sound Speed's Answer something. And I remember thinking, oh, okay, that's SaaS, so that's not good either. But I'm probably overthinking it, and there's probably a really good, very simple title out there. I just need to pick it. So anyway, let me play catch up here. I'm disappointed that the WAO didn't do well. Yes, wrong answers only. Wrong answers only was probably the least liked segment. A lot of people skipped it by the end. Somehow I missed that you had a podcast at all. Yeah, well, it was me goofing off. If you do a search for Sound Speeds podcast Reaper blog, you'll see it. It's almost my exact same logo. It's just it has a P built into the 2 S's. Let's see. I've been waiting for the 32-point floating video. Yeah. Sorry, Greg. Unbelievable. I'm lucky enough to be online and you're live. Yep. Sound Speed. Hello to my friend and sound brother down there in New Zealand. Let's see. Yes, Q&A common group themes. Same, spend many hours every week answer email. Kevin, dude, you're a machine. I don't know how you do. Curtis even said that in Twitter recently. I don't know how you do all the things you do, but you do. As you know, I've bought one of your courses, and you send out emails once a week, and they're not just like a, hey guys, how's it going, blah, blah, blah. It's detailed, and it's got a lot of stuff. And he's got his unscripted channel, and he's got his main channel, and then he's got this and this and this and this, and he's building videos on the side and stuff, just like Curtis does. It's amazing what these guys do. Make me look like a chump. Okay, any chance of doing a vlog while you're on set? No. Something Chris Air, a movie, works in film industry. His super helpful. NDAs are hard. If you could, you'd tell stories. Yeah. NDAs are the reason why it would be very difficult. Being a boom operator, I live on set. By the time we get back to work, it could be very difficult. And it's going to probably, I mean, there were shows that when I was working on a Marvel show, absolutely zero chance of it. Very strict about things. Stranger Things was so strict when I was on that show. It was probably the most strict about the NDA because I did season 2. Season 1 of Stranger Things, it had grown to such a big thing because season 1 was very small. By the time it came back for season 2, it was very, very big. And by that point, they were like, you don't need a script. I'm like, what do you mean? I need to know the words. Why do you need to know the words? Because I need to know who to put a microphone on next. Okay, we'll approve you 1 script per department. No, the sound mixer needs 1. I need 1, and the sound utility needs 1 because he also second booms a lot. Okay, fine. You're only going to be given scripts on set, but we pick them up at the end of the day, and that was their policy. In addition to having their regular name for the show, it was not referred to as Stranger Things. That season was referred to as Wonderview. So instead of putting Stranger Things on location signs, you'd put Wonderview, and people would be like, what is that? Well, Wonderview was Stranger Things Season 2. Stranger Things Season 3 had a different name. I didn't work it, so I don't know what it was. I remember seeing it one time and saying, is that the working title? And someone's like, yes. Shh. I was like, okay. But anyway, that the Stranger Things was actually the most strict about taking scripts back at the end of the day. There was a guy that knew everyone. It was the security guy, and he was their office security guy, and he would come by and give out scripts at the end of the day, or collect them back at the end of the day. He expected to see them all because your name has a watermark across that. He would collect them and he would shred them. That was his job. Anyway, so love the QA and war stories. Yeah. That was what kind of I was doing. I probably wouldn't do a whole lot of war stories unless asked. If you wanted to hear a war story, you could ask me a question, Greg, and say, so tell me, do you have a fun story about, challenge that you had on set or something and how you overcame it, something like that. So Kevin, it seemed to meet with Kevin's approval. Seems smart. Podcast answer questions. Some way should develop a chat bot for YouTube recipes to answer those emails. Yeah. But then it doesn't have a personal touch. And if you write somebody and expect to just get a machine, an automated response, then how is that good? Yep, I agree. That would be awesome. Sound speeds with sound advice. SSSA. We know how building better boom operators became 3BO, but I can't have 3S. What is it? 3SA. At one point, Matt Price, Sound Rolling on YouTube, was trying to develop a chat bot to handle answering questions. Yes, you're right. He was, David, SoundSpeed. He was definitely doing that. And it's funny because as soon as he announced it, I tried using it. I sent the chat bot some questions and it never responded. And it wasn't like I was trying to kill the thing either. I said, what were some of the questions? It was something like, what company makes the Sennheiser, what company makes the MKH50? No answer. Who is the manufacturer of the MKH 416? No answer. And so I tried, some other things too. Name microphones from Sheps. No answer. And so I sent him a message. The only way I really have of reaching Matt was through Google Hangouts. So I would send him chat messages through there, and I'd say, dude, it's not responding. Anyway, he was having some issues with it. And now he's doing a different thing. He's no longer doing sound a whole lot full time, at least. But he's very, very happy with his family now. I mean, he's always loved his family, but still, I mean, now he's working with his wife, and he can be with his baby whenever he wants because they work together on a family business, and it's awesome. I'm so pleased for him that he's happy, and that's awesome. I mean, who would not like doing that? You know, working with your, you know, doing a business with somebody that you love and with your family right there. That's awesome. The camera actually looks pretty decent. Thank you. I go into the Logitech software constantly, and I mess with it. Sounds like a great idea. Definitely love to see it on the main channel. Great idea. I like that he encourages audio questions. Hey, Alan, just want to make sure say I'm a huge fan from Brazil. Brazil, awesome. We're beating you in COVID-19. We got more cases than you do, so sorry. Really like your content, especially the technical stuff. Awesome. Well, technical stuff can sometimes take longer to produce. So one of the reasons why you would think that with all the shutdown and stuff, I'd have so much more time to produce videos. But I tell you, it's amazing how quick your schedule fills up. I mean, I'm constantly doing one thing or the other or another with the family. It's amazing. Let's see here. Honestly, didn't know you had a podcast. Yep, Greg, it's SoundSpeed's podcast. If someone wants to link it in chat, I don't have 100 subscribers yet on the channel. Don't even bother, I would say, if you're not already subscribed. If I get over 100, I'll at least be able to reserve youtube.com/SoundSpeeds podcast. So, I mean, if you want to see it that way, it'd make it easier to mention, you can. But I would say don't even worry about subscribing because I only come up with a video like whenever I feel like it. So anyway, YouTube never suggested it to me. Yeah, probably wouldn't because it's one of those offshoots. It is listed if you look on my main channel on the right-hand side, recommended channels. There's a whole bunch of channels listed there that all do sound. David, your sound speed is up there. Curtis Judd sound thing is up there. And there's a few other sound channels up there. And I think Matt Price is still up there too. But the podcast is up there. So if you want it, just go to my main channel, look on the right-hand side, and you'll see it. If literally one person did it, the prize wouldn't have been given. That you're talking about the you're talking about the cable wrangling contest. If one person would have wrapped up a cable, I would have given a $100 prize. And it was because I was trying to get interaction. It wasn't because I did not require people to do anything except, put yourself on camera wrangling a cable. That's all it was doing, because I was going to at the time release a video talking about the proper way to over under a cable, but I got so bummed after not being able to give away money just for someone, doing a video. I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'm not even going to do the video right now. So I didn't know you had a podcast either. Maybe answer 2 questions, 1 story, 1 quick pro tip. That way you keep it balanced. What did I do the last time? It was one like a flex thing, and then I told a story. The world's of Charles Dickens. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Yeah. Get a lot of questions coming into my channel too, but they don't always make for good QA. You know what though? And that's a good point, Reaper Blog. But I tell you, it's one of those things where a lot of the questions I get are something that almost all of them are questions that probably other people would want to know. It's not like, I don't know the kind of questions you get, but I don't want to just bring it up right now because you'd see their email addresses and everything. But there's a lot of times people will say, here are some pictures of my room. Here's some audio samples. Let's check it out. What are your thoughts? Well, if I wanted to, if I got approval from somebody to take the to use their samples or whatever in the video for the podcast, then I could easily play it and say, what it sounds to me like is this, and I could talk about it live, or not live, but you know what I mean. Let's see here. Same. Think same for Q&A. Needs a long game play. Yeah. SSAD, nope. SPSA, sound speed, sound advice. Sound answers. Sad podcast. Yeah. Hey, don't write that off immediately. Who knows? Maybe it was a great name as people would sure to remember. It was very unique. War Stories chat and other boom ops would be cool. Yeah, I don't have very many interviews on the channel. The reason why is because at the very beginning, Matt Price was he has the sound chats where he talked to a lot of people. I did do stories from set. I interviewed a total of 4 people. Flip Barrero, sound mixer with over 4 decades of experience. Whit Norris, over 3 decades of experience. Robert Maxfield, over 3 decades of experience booming. And then Cooper Andrews, who's an actor who played like Jerry on Walking Dead. And he was in, he's been in some other movies. You'd know him if you saw him. But he's a friend of mine because he used to be a boom operator, and he and I bonded on set. He played he was in *Halt and Catch Fire*, and he played in *Walking Dead*, and I worked on both of those shows. So those are the first times I ever worked with him as an actor. But I tell you, you want to talk about a cool guy, being that he was sound and boom operators, he understood certain things. Like, for example, if I'm swinging around and swinging to everybody on a set, and it's just me booming, I will land on someone and they'll say the line, hopefully. Hopefully I'll get to them. And if I'm talking between someone here and someone where the camera is, I'm going to start to lead away and then try to catch up and get the rest of the way there. So that way I'm still catching the end of this syllable here and I'm getting the next one. And that's if I can cue, if it's not going to do a phase shift or something. But I tell you what's cool about Cooper is when he would get coverage going, if my sound mixer was like, I want you to cover everybody, I want you to do, got to get the whole set. Okay, fine. I'll get that. But Cooper, if the boom was not over his head, he would pause until it was. Oh, you want to talk about a sound friendly guy. I tell you, I love that about Cooper. Cooper was awesome because there was only a few times I wouldn't be able to get to him in time, but he would know the boom wasn't there and he would know he's on camera, and he wouldn't just go ahead and deliver the line because it felt like the right time. He would pause a split second, let the boom get over him, and then say the line. Love him, love him, love him, love him, love him. So awesome. Anyway, let's continue down here. SAPSSA, Sound Advice Podcast, Sound Speeds Answers. Wow. Exady stamps, it's going to be difficult for me to say that. Sound Advice Podcast, Sound Speeds Answers. Whew. That'd be tough. Yeah, too long. You got that. Read happens. Had videos sit there for 2 years. All of a sudden takes off. Do what you do. It will happen. Same with podcasts. Sign me up. I've got questions galore. Well, recently on Twitter, Kevin we were joking around and Kevin created a hashtag, Ask Curtis Judd Silly Questions. And we started doing it. And I tell you, Curtis got a little amped up. It was kind of funny. He's how sweet-natured he is. But I tell you, it was so funny. He's like, okay, guys. And he was like, okay, guys. He was answering the questions, too. And he was firing back with just as much, spunk as we were giving him. It was a lot of fun. Oh, boy, I can get the bigger productions you work on. You would want to be very careful about what they show behind the scenes because of health, safety, and COVID. Yeah. Not just that, NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, man. I've done a few shots off of shows before that you've seen on this show. I think it was my deity. I think the 5 K6 and K8 video I did behind the scenes on American Soul. We had a noisy soundstage and the air conditioning was just blasting full blast. I think I did 1 or 2 things on the set of Black Lightning. A shot or 2. Or maybe I shot them and I didn't use them. I can't remember. But I've shot a couple of things behind the scenes on set, usually during lunch. Anyway. Oh boy, I can get the bigger productions. I've already said that. Many shows also audition actors with dummy lines and character names. Yes, they do. You could just imagine the social media storm that might be if someone sees you doing COVID-19 protocols wrong in your videos. Yes, that's one of the reasons why I haven't done them. I do have a fun video coming up that is going to involve 2 forms of headwear that people can use. And I've also ordered, all right, fine, spoiler alert. I do have a Stingray hat from K-Tech. I do, and Bumblebee Industries just got through sending me their 3 new production hats that include face shields for COVID-19. I've also ordered from VersaFlex. VersaFlex, since they've no longer been working, they have been creating masks, and their masks are the best as far as I can tell. It's got like an inner flap that if you have glasses, you can flip it up and it guards the nose, so that way it fits correctly on your nose, but you can still breathe without fogging up glasses. So I bought 3 of those, and those should be arriving soon. I'm going to put those in the video that I'm going to do about the headwear. And it's not going to be a review. It's going to be a showcase video showcasing headwear for production audio people. So you'll have that coming up 1, 2, maybe 3 videos from now. I'm not going to say what the other 2 are. But what I will say is both of them involve this, which you've heard me talk about. Okay. Let's see here. You were not trying to kill it, but you did. Oh, okay. Fan from Hong Kong here. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the next. Thanks for showing up here. Nice thing about the custom URL is once you have it, you get to keep it. Even if you dip back late under. Yep. That's cool. And, who knows? I'll if you want to subscribe to it, I think I'm at like 92 or 93 subs on the SoundSpeeds podcast channel. If you want to subscribe to it, I'll check it as soon as the stream is done. And if it has over 100, I'll go ahead and register SoundSpeeds podcast, because who knows? I may end up using it at some point in the future. I have some other channels. I just don't use them for anything. But we'll see what happens in the future. Actually, small correction. I'm not there, but yes, I understand why. Hope that is sorting itself out. I don't know. Greg says name suggestion. Name sound answers and questions. SAC. Sound advice, questions and answers. SACA. Sakwa? Saka? Always, it's almost 10:15 Central. Got to head out. Okay, X-Hades, good to see you. Cooper's interview here in channel was great. I like the Cooper Andrews video. I really expected it to do better too, because he's an actor and he's been on some big shows. I really expected that interview to do better, but it never did. It never took off, and it may be because when I interviewed him, I only had like not even 1,000 subscribers. I think maybe. When was it? It was probably about that time that Mike Delgadio gave me the shout out. And he did the video where he said, subscribe to the Reaper blog and subscribe to SoundSpeeds, which was, I think, about almost 3 years ago now. Well, about 2.5 years ago. I think that was, I'd had about 30 or some odd videos done at the time. And he gave me a shout out. And I think I went from 210 or 212 subscribers, something like that, up to 997 over 2 days because of that. And I was like, wow, look at that. That's amazing. Thank you. And I think within a few days after that, I was able to monetize the channel. No, I wasn't. I had 1,000 subscribers. I did not have the views. I did not have 100,000 views. I got those when I did my Laurel Yanni video. That was when I got remonetized, because I had just gotten it. And I was like, yes, I finally was able to monetize the channel. And I went through like a 45-day long procedure where I had to wait until YouTube approved me. They approved me, and then like 2 or 3 weeks later, we received notification that because of that they were changing it to 4,000 hours of time and 1,000 subscribers, it was no longer based on views, and my channel was demonetized. So no sooner did I get it, was I demonetized. I was like, crap, that sucks. But because of my Laurel and Yanni video, I went from 3,996 or 3,896 hours to 41 something in 1 day because of the 30,000 views of my Laurel Yanni video. It is now my second most popular video. Anyway, pretty interesting. Well, I love those actors who wait for a boom op to arrive, and even those automatically wait for themselves when a train passes. Yes. Oh, that is such a nice thing. And what he's referring to, if you're not familiar with set, is that there are some actors that are very sound friendly. If they hear a noise, they will either pause for it and wait for it to happen and then restate their line, or they'll say, let's take this back. Hold on 1 second for the plane or for the train or whatever. And they'll wait. And sometimes directors are like, no, just go. And they're like, no. Now I can. And then they'll go. I've been on other shows before where actors will talk no matter what's going on. And they'll just nonstop just talk through jackhammers behind them. And you're like, why don't we just go MOS on this? I mean, if you want to roll now, why don't we just go MOS? And I've been sassy like that before. I've been on set before where we've had a bad noise. And they've said roll sound. I'm like, we should wait for this. And like, nope, we're going to go ahead and go. I'm like, then go MOS. And they're like, we're not going to go MOS. Just roll. I'm like, if we roll, you're not going to get anything. Why bother rolling if you're not going to have sound? Just go MOS. And they're like, no, I'm not going to do that. Well, I'll argue with people over that one. And usually that the reason I do that is because it buys a few minutes, a few moments. And that way, sometimes I've also had sound mixers that will delay. And I was like, hold on a second. He's getting ready to roll. And then he'll slate in my ear, or she'll slate in my ear. And then I'll say, still waiting on it. I'll call it the second that, I'll call it as soon as I hear it. Hear the plane trailing off. I'll say, all right, sound speed, then I'll put the boom up, and I'll do that to delay just a little bit. Okay. Let's see. Kevin, apparently we now are part of the clown crowd after doing the Twitter thing with Curtis. Oops. That's all right. Curtis is a good sport. Yep. Get what you mean about not wanting to give away a show's story. That's always a problem. But I reckon this COVID-19 era, they're less willing to let the behind the scenes be seen because of the health and safety risk. But here's the question. I'm at 97 right now. Okay, 97 subscribers. Awesome. Thanks, Nathan. Or Eric, Nathan. Here's the thing. Once we've achieved herd immunity and COVID-19 is no longer a big deal anymore, which I fully expect at some point it's to be. I mean, even, smallpox, even chickenpox, not chickenpox. What are some of the deadly ones? Tuberculosis, back through human history. Once there's been cures, once people have gotten, over it, and people have built up immunities to it and built up polio, for example. Once people took their little sugar cubes with the vaccine in there, it was no longer an issue anymore. Now, I do fully, believe that someplace the CDC has an archive of every single thing that has killed humans throughout the centuries. I mean, they probably have the Black Plague in there for all I know. But I fully think that at some point in time, we're gonna be at the point where the whole COVID-19 thing will just be looked at as that was just another chapter in the past of humanity, and it's not going to be a big issue, and we can go back to the way things were. But right now, I understand the critical nature of it. I mean, we're now extremely huge and number one for, I think, what is it? I was looking at the numbers earlier today. What is it like? We have something like almost 10 million people worldwide have caught it that we know of. There's not been enough testing, Like my wife wasn't counted because she was never officially tested because we did not have the capacity to, but she had every single one of the symptoms. Everything was exactly as you heard it was for people that had it, and her recovery time was exactly the same, even though she's never had more than like an 8-day recovery of anything in her life, and that was a botched surgery when she was younger. But I mean, it's like, COVID-19 took her six weeks, a month and a half, basically, to recover from it. And I know a lot of people right now. There's about half of the numbers worldwide have recovered. And there's been a very small amount of deaths. And I understand that as time progresses, we're getting better at treatment and stuff. But there is a very long time period it takes for someone to recover. And whether someone recovers or dies, it takes a while for that to happen. Quite honestly. So, I just scrolled the wrong way. Nick. Is that video coming out that I got to see the cold preview of. Not to disclose spoiler, but it's awesome. It will eventually. I tell you, we shot that video. The footage you saw was actually shot back in February. There is footage I have shot that I think I shot back in December for some videos. There's a product I was sent in February of 2018, and I still have not reviewed the thing. I feel so bad. It's like but in all fairness, it's because it is a really cool thing, and it's not something you use every day, but I would get on set and I'd be like, oh, I can use this, and then I was like, okay, cool. Then like I would say, oh, I might as well go ahead and do the review, and then that day I would use it. I'm like, ooh, maybe there's another opportunity I can use it again soon, and then I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna wait a little bit longer, and I would then find another use for it. And I keep doing it over and over again. So the time that Nick, I end up doing that review is going to be about the same time as or the product that you saw the teaser for is going to be about the same time as I review another product that was in that video. But I want to do them right. I'm going to probably write them out. Actually, I need to write them out probably this week. I've been subbed since Mike did the shout out. Awesome, Greg. Thank you very much. All right, Kevin, let's see. It says, you're awesome. I think we should do a live stream with you on my channel and get you some traction if you're a game. Absolutely. I like promoting good people with tons of knowledge. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. I'm game anytime. I tell Curtis the exact same thing. I mean, I know I can't be a regular guest on anything. But I'm certainly game, Kevin. If you want, just you have my phone number, shoot me a text or send me a message through Twitter or email or whatever, and we'll line it up and we'll definitely do it. That's definitely something I'm game for. Definitely need some more exposure. It's great. Thank you. Are you into any home audio hi-fi setup stuff at all? Not in a long time. Let the truth be known. When I first married my wife, she and I were both going to be in the workforce for about 3 years. And then we were going to have kids. It didn't turn out that way. We ended up having a little one before our first anniversary. And that ended up meaning that we had to change everything that we were planning and suddenly go from an apartment that was pretty bad to a place that was more stable. And we had to suddenly make some pretty drastic changes. And when we got married, I was all about getting a DTS 5.1 surround sound system, and we had one. But after having the little one, couldn't turn it up loud. I mean, was not going to be one of those things that we were going to be able to get a lot of use out of anymore. So as sad as it is, when we started having the kiddies, we ended up trading it out because, I think she ran into one of the tower speakers at one point. She stood up against it, grabbed hold of it, lost balance, pulled it over top of her, that kind of thing. So we're like, you know what? We're just going to trade it out. And we've had one of those virtual, because it sounded the best, virtual surround sound bars. Garbage. I mean, it sounds good enough for what it is, but it doesn't have surround sound channels or anything. It is virtual surround. But still, if you're talking about, am I into hi-fi and stuff? Yes. I do like that kind of stuff. My sound systems I used to DJ with, dude, were like heavy duty. My sound systems, I could tell you a couple of stories. Crawford Communications, who does it used to do like VFX and stuff like that, and I think they've changed and there's somebody else now. But I was part of a company that used to do their Christmas party. Well, we did their first party, and I had two OAPFH 118 subwoofers. And I had them paired with, in bridge mono mode, 2 Crown VS 900s. And even though it was only like 900 watts RMS, or maybe it was 1200, something like that, I don't remember anymore. But it was really awesome that we went out there, we brought out a whole big sound system and everything, and we just blasted the place crazy. Well, they hired us for video to shoot that, and we were there and we were there DJing, and we had a 2-person DJ team, and it was just crazy. I was going around shooting video of it, and we brought and my boss rented my light show, and he brought in his light show. We wanted to show a really, really awesome time because it was a Christmas party, so we wanted to have fun, and it's when you could call it a Christmas party back in the 90s, and the next year, they told us, we had such a blast and want to go ahead and hire you for next year too. So the second year, we said we're going to do the same kind of thing. But the next year, it was a very different venue. The first year, it was a very square building, and they had a dance floor that was built into the ground. The second year, they put the DJ table on top of an elevated platform that was about 2 feet off the ground. And in front of that, we were looking slightly down onto the dance floor. The entire room was maybe 70 feet wide and about 250 feet deep. It was the entire bottom floor of this hotel. And I remember looking at this saying, what a really bad design of a ballroom for sound. Because, it was just like, okay, well, because we were on a platform and we had subs down below, it was blasting. It was going to be blasting, and it was going to all reverb through it. So it was a lot of bass where we were. Well, at the very, very end of the night, they said, the guy said, came up to us, the guy that hired us. It was like 1 a.m. He said, and he was drunk at that point. He said, if you play for the last 10 minutes as loud as you can, and you give it as much bass as you can, pick some really bassy songs that we would know. And if you do that for the last 10 minutes, we'll hire you on the spot for next year. I was one of the DJs that year. I wasn't shooting. And I looked over at the boss, and he's like, well, let's do it, man. I said, what can we do? 2 songs that have a lot of bass, Tootsie Roll, and whoop, there it is. We're talking 90s. So we're like, okay. And those, it was pretty awesome. And I tell you, I had never taken those subwoofers over about 3 out of 10 before. But in that particular occasion, I thought I'd bring it up to 5 and just go. And by that point, we started shaking the recessed lights in the drop ceiling. They were shaking so bad that they were starting to shake out around the room. And not just that, that's partially probably because the elevated platform was kind of like a passive radiator. But what was also cool about it was ceiling tiles around the entire room going deep were starting to shake out. We lost a couple of ceiling tiles on the first song. And they had some chandeliers and stuff that were built onto the wall. One of them shook so bad it actually flipped upside down. And this is just the first song. Right as we were just starting up the second song, we're talking 3.5 minutes is when I beat mix into it. Right as soon as I just beat mixed into it, I looked over and I see the manager walking with 2 security guys behind him. And they walk right in, they beeline right towards us and say, I don't know what you're doing, but turn it down. And we're just like, oh, we don't want to risk this job, But the manager said, because it was 1 a.m., he said, between floors 3, 4, and 5, we have had 10 complaints in the past 5 minutes that their mirrors on their wall are shaking. Turn it down. Okay. So at that point, we brought everything back down and we had to apologize. We said, and we brought it down for a second and said, hey guys, there's security here to shut us down because we're too wild, having too much fun out here. We're apparently waking up people all the way up to floor 5, and the place burst into cheer. They were all like, yeah, party animals all drunk. Anyway, it was really funny, and what a great time. If you're interested and if someone says in chat you want to see it, I will tell you another funny story that happened when I was DJing this time at the Holiday Inn. So if you're interested in hearing a story, I'll tell it to you. But let me play catch up here on chat. So yes, to answer your question, I'm into home audio and hi-fi setups, but I have not been able to keep up with it for a long time. The problem is if you go MOS, they've got nothing to ADR with. Sometimes I'll sassily call this the ADR guide track. Yes, you're right. You're right, David. But the thing is, though, I will tell people defiantly, just go MOS knowing that they're going to say, no, just roll sound on that. I'll say there's no point. And I'll do that. I'll argue with them in order to delay. That's the reason why I say that. Because I know that if they're rolling sound, they're going to be like, wait a minute, are you not ready? Something like that. And I would say, it's not us, it's the sound. If I say that and I call out the sound, the bad location or the bad noise or whatever, they're going to say, I don't care, just roll sound anyway. If I argue with them, there's no point. It buys a few seconds. That's usually the reason why I'll do that. I have a lot of tricks at my sleeve that I can use. But yes, you're exactly right. I'm not just going to let it go MOS. Thanks for all great info in your videos. I've learned a lot the past couple of months regarding audio. Thanks to you. Greetings from Mexico. Thank you very much, Ruben. Appreciate you coming out. So I'm just turning in exactly what is the idea you're pitching. Waiting, never mind, you're pitching in like 4 minutes. Okay. Wait, no. Okay. I think I'm a little far behind. I don't know what that's in reference to. I think I pitched the idea almost an hour ago now. Have got footage from years ago that I should dig up and edit. Yes, you should. Have way more videos I filmed footage for and not uploaded than I finally uploaded. I tell you, Soundspeed, who is a sound brother down there in New Zealand, he's here with us today. My favorite video he has ever done, and I've told him this in the past, and it's not even one of his most informative, and he's done a lot of fun ones. He goes all the way back to like testing out, opening up the Aperture Deity mic, the first one, the Aperture Deity shotgun. And he's gone out, he's walked around shows that he's done where he's gotten the NDA and he's been cleared. He says, I built this baffle and I've done this and I've done this. He's got some cool videos. But my favorite one is still where you were talking about stuff, and I think your girlfriend was sitting right next to you in the shot. She was helping you for a moment or interacting with you for a minute, but then she gets, totally, as you start talking about sound, she just starts surfing the internet on her phone and playing around, and y'all are both evenly on the screen. You're over there so excited talking about sound, and she's just like completely bored, tuned out. That video to me is still hilarious, and I could just pick it up and watch it anytime because it's just so funny how it is so rings true. Is like if my wife would actually go on a live stream or my daughters would, they zone out. I tell you though, my daughters surprised me one time because we were at dinner, a few years ago, and I jokingly, we were throwing out, we were doing one of those letter games where I say we pick a theme. And I say something with the letter A, and you say something with the letter B, C, D, and we go all the way around. Well, I threw out the theme, sound, and jokingly, wasn't expecting them to actually do it. And they said, "Okay, you're going to sit this one out, Dad." I'm like, "Wait a minute, no, we can't. You're not going to know all the stuff." And they got through all the letters. I was so surprised. I mean, they and even the difficult letters too. X was XLR. What did they say for Q? I don't even remember which one they said for Q at this point, but I remember they got through every single letter, and I was dumbfounded. I was like, y'all did sound. You made it all the way through the alphabet. It was amazing. Anyway, I was like, y'all actually do listen to me. It's amazing. And they were like, yeah, it's kind of funny. I have a question for you. Do you use OBS? I do use OBS. If so, you know how to make an audio fade out when switching scenes? I don't. I only use OBS to stream. I do. I literally only use it to stream. It's doing it right now, and I think I hit the record button. Did I? Yeah, it's recording and it's streaming, which is awesome. So I do have a higher quality version. I only actually only for my Patreons that set up for like at least a $10 a month thing. After your second month, I send you a link to my untitled archive of live streams. There's I think over like 25 live streams, and there's like hours and hours of material, and you hear me go into some rants about stuff. You hear me talk about some of the things that I'm passionate about. You hear me talking about there's been some pretty awesome stuff I've seen in the live streams, but I reserve that for a Patreon thing because I mean I figure if you're interested in a live stream, like 21 people are in here right now as part of the live stream. If you're interested in my live stream content, come to that. If you're not, it's gone. DJ Nair, yes indeed. What a great story. That's not the story I would tell though. Uh, Thanks for whatever you do. I'll contact you. I have to bolt now. Cheers, mate. Okay, great. No problem. Also, love your channel. Has a lot of great content. Thank you so much, Lucas. Thanks for sharing your deep knowledge of almost all audio things. Voiceover peeps can learn a lot from you. Thank you so much, Bob. I really appreciate it. DJ Nair. Now that was, I will tell that story too real quick. DJ Nair. I think I told that story recently. I don't remember where. But I was hired to DJ an overnight party. I was going to be DJing from midnight until 6 a.m. at a high school. And I think I was like 21 at the time. Something like that. And so I was hired to go out there and DJ. And my girlfriend was in town at the time, and she was attending school in South Carolina. And college in South Carolina, but she was with me that weekend, and it was for a lock-in. And I think there was 150 kids or something there. They were all like, seniors, I think it was. And I remember I was told play music all night. So from 6 a.m. from midnight until 6 a.m. I was like, that's a long time to be blasting music. I mean, and if it's a lock-in, if it's anything like any of the lock-ins I ever did, kids are going to get tired around 2 or 3. And they're like, doesn't matter. We still want you to play. Okay, fine. There's going to be someone that's going to be interested. I'm like, fine, no problem. And I have never liked shaving. Like right now, I have a little bit of stubble there. Every time I'm about to shoot a Soundspeeds video is when I shave again. I just hate it. I hate the scratchiness. I have thought so many times against just about lasering my face and being done with it. But I tell you, it's like, it's one of those things where I was like trying every trick I could. And so I had asked, what can I use to make it so I don't have to shave as often? Because I've always had really splotchy, facial hair. And it was even worse when I was like in my early 20s. But I was told by my girlfriend at the time, I'm not going to name her, that Nair was something I could use. Okay, so I'll go ahead and try Nair. And she said, well, just use a little bit just on a follow the directions and use it on just a little spot. Because if it doesn't work, then you don't want to go forth with it. I'm like, okay, sure. And I looked at the directions, take hot water and, right over here and keep it on there, and then put a little spot of Nair, and then wash the timer. And then at the end, do a washcloth, that whole thing. Okay, fine. I tried it. And when I took the washcloth, it came right off smooth. I was like, oh, that's awesome. And it's silky smooth there too. That's beautiful. So at that point I was like, well, I'm just going to go for it. So I put a washcloth over my face, and I did the whole thing. I just rubbed it all in. And I was like, I really want it to work. So I'm just going to let it, it says sit there for 3 to 5 minutes. I'm going to sit there for 5 minutes. And then at the end, I'm like, I don't feel like it's done anything. I really want it to work. So I'm going to give it a couple more minutes. Bad move. Because this was not Nair face, I'm going to add. This was the Nair that ladies use on their legs. And I put it over my entire face. So I take the washcloth and I start to do this. And this time, hair is still there. It doesn't really come off. And I'm like, rub again. And I'm like, wow, that burns. And then I did a little bit more. And then parts of it are coming off, parts of it aren't. And I'm like, what's going on? And so then I ended up doing the whole entire face and rubbing it off, rubbing all the hair that I could off. And it was pretty bad. It was splotchy. It was bad shape. It looked terrible. It was, and places that did not have hair and places that did have hair were starting to like, you know how if you like rub your skin a whole lot, how it will start to kind of bubble up and it gets that kind of a watery type feeling to it where you've taken off top layer or two of skin. That was the way my face was starting to show up. And you know how if you leave it alone, then it kind of goes discolored? Well, the problem that I ran into was I still had splotchiness of hair because you had to give it a little while to have some hair to wipe off. And so that was terrible because I was like, oh crap, this is going to just, it was so irritating. It was so bad that I was trying so desperately to get it off of there, but it wasn't working. So then I had to take my razor and shave the rest of it off. And my face was so sensitive at that point. So by the time I went to DJ that night, here I am supposed to be a young, cool DJ that knows all the songs and has all this music. And I brought out like a 3,000 watts of bass and just this amazing sound system. And I did not bring the light show because they weren't paying for it. But I got out there and I was just going to be blasting all night long, and my face looks like it was melted. I mean, it was just splotchy, and I looked like I had, and people were just like, looking at me. I'm like, I look so bad. And so that's the DJ Nair story. Anyway, need more funny stories. All right, well, let me get through this, and then I will tell the story about me DJing at the Holiday Inn. It would be awesome to hear other stories, man. So off topic, do you like vinyl records? Absolutely love vinyl. I did a video. The Geek Koala turntable was something that I was sent. Would I be interested in trying it? I'm like, you know what? I ended up getting rid of my turntables when I had when we had to downsize for a while, like after I had my children. We ended up having to scale down for a while. So I ended up getting rid of my vinyl, not my vinyl records so much as my turntables. And, but yes, I love vinyl. And I mean, what I love about it is the analog sound and how because it's on a record, it's very, very loud constantly. It's compressed. They can't really have too much dynamic range on a gosh, my nose is so itchy. Sorry. So much dynamic range on a little, vinyl disc. So, I really love the fact that you can put it in there and it's just loud. It's not as good at bass response. I know there's now Serato Scratch Live and things like that are pretty awesome. But vinyl is just something that if you want to put on something, Peter Frampton, Do You Feel Like We Do? You want to put on some like old school, rock albums. Man, I could just, I remember I used to just lay down in my bedroom, and I would have the speakers, I'd kind of angle them from where they were, and I'd point them inwards, and I'd put on a record, and I'd just lay there on my carpet with the music just blasting me in the ears, and I would just lay there with the ceiling fan over, just blowing away, air conditioning cool on my skin, feeling a little bit chilled, but just being like, this sounds so good, this is just wonderful. And then I got rid of it all. The Geek Koala turntable review, I'm if you look at my channel, the Geek Koala turntable, it was a pretty decent product. I mean, I think I go over that and I say that it's for the price, it's a pretty good find. I mean, it's pretty cool. But it's definitely not great. I talk about it and talk specifically about how the audio quality, if you hit the record button, it sucks. It's not very good. Even if you try to do noise removal and stuff, it just doesn't sound good. So forget about that. But if you want to have an entry level first time record player, you could do far worse. Anyway, so yes, absolutely love vinyl. Sorry, confused about the time zone you're in. No worries. He was in Central Time. Your description is Eastern Time. I am in Eastern Time. So I'm at 99, then 100. Okay, so I will register the provided no one in the stream here takes Soundspeed's podcast / or youtube.com / I will take that. So good. Well, I'm sure he's long since gone by now. But Midori Pro videos. Good night. Sorry for bad English. I'm from Argentina. Don't worry, Lucas. Your English is far better than any Spanish I know. I should tell you my story about Spanish. Lucas, if you want to hear my story about Spanish and how I finally was able to pass it, I will let you tell me if you want to hear that story. She's here looking at me, wondering why I'm laughing like a weirdo. Yeah, just grow a beard. You know what, Soundspeed? I do not like beards. They're fine if I'm looking at them on you. I mean, yours is epic, but I don't like the feel. And I've grown them to a certain degree past the scratchy stage. I just don't like the way they feel, man. I mean, it grows to a little bit of length there, and I start biting it in the corner of my mouth, and it drives me crazy. And then I'm like, doing this number all day. And then, even right now, when it starts to get a little bit longer than it is right now, I find myself picking at the corners because I'll have a little bitty hair that grows out, not just on the outside, but right on the inside of my lip, and it will grow inwards. And like, and I find myself doing this number to the point where it's almost like, what is the drug that people take? Meth? They feel like they have bugs or something in their face. It looks like I've been, doing some drug, because I'll pick at if I don't have tweezers or something like that on me, I will pick at that with my fingernails until I get the hair off because it will drive me nuts. Anyway, I just do not like beards. So Greg, you helped me discover Audio Mute because of your new booth. I'm going to be converting my new apartment walk-in closet to a vocal booth with mineral wool and Audio Mute blankets. That's awesome. Yeah, mineral wool is great. I think just be careful about breathing it. I know that technically there are some things that are safer than others, but still be wary, and you might want to cover it over with some muslin. Just because I don't trust it. I mean, I have things here that are like Owens Corning 703 all through there, and there's the insole quilts, and there's the Audio Mute blankets behind it and stuff like that. But but a lot of the OC 703 I got came wrapped with burlap. Well, I don't like burlap because it leaves little particles and stuff like that. It's not easy to work with if you're going to cover with something. So I always rewrapped it with muslin. I talked about that in my studio upgrade video. The way to see if a material is acoustically transparent is by putting it over your mouth and trying to breathe through it. If you can breathe easily, and it's very easy to breathe in and out of, it's acoustically transparent. Now, yes, you can put it over your head and listen and hear how much it affects, the sounds around you too. You can do that, but it's easier to breathe. The easier it is for you to breathe through, the easier it's going to be. And you do not want to do that with burlap because you're going to be inhaling stuff. But muslin is a great product that is just as acoustically transparent as burlap, but you can usually get it fairly inexpensive and in more colors. So definitely go muslin, is my opinion. I found your channel from podcast to Discord, and I'm loving your content, even if most of it goes over my head. Keep up the awesome work. Thank you, IR_Cujo. Thank you very much. Frampton comes alive. Yes, indeed. Frampton comes alive. Do you feel like we do? Cool to hear about Peter Frampton. Was curious about the music you like. Yes, would love to hear. Okay, so I will first tell the story about Holiday Inn DJing. There was, I think it was a fundraiser that was either, I forgot exactly what it was now. It was years ago. It was in the late 90s, and I think it was some sort of a fundraiser or event where there was a DJ would come in for a 4-hour set, and then they would tag off to someone else. I think it was like a 24-hour party for singles or something. I can't remember the exact details anymore, but I remember I was the very last DJ that was being tagged in, and I got there, and it was supposed to like end at midnight. So it started at midnight one night and went through 24 hours through all the next day, and I caught the 8 p.m. to 12 shift. I was like the last DJ up. But I got there a little bit ahead of time, and I was relieving a DJ named Scott. And it was so funny because he told me, dude, go get some of the chocolate fondue from the you're here early. I'm still in my set. Go over there and get some of the chocolate fondue. You got to do it. I said, awesome, cool, definitely go do that. And so it's dark in there. I can't see a whole lot. I walk over there and I get a plate, and I'm looking around. I'm like, this has got to be the chocolate fondue because it's in this whole fountain thing, and it's awesome. And I pull out a ladle and I start getting it, and there's this dude that sees me taking some of the little bits of Rice Krispie treats and other things like some of the fruit and banana pieces and stuff that you would put in chocolate fondue. He sees me with that on my plate, and then sees me just ladling over from the fondue thing. And he looks at me and he gives me this really weird look. And he says, "You like that?" I'm like, "Dude, it's awesome. Have you ever tried it?" He said, "Nope, and I'm not going to either." And I'm thinking, what's wrong with this guy? I mean, it's got to be, you've never tried chocolate fondue. That's really crazy. Because I was like, you gotta like it. But he was just so, I mean, his face was like, nope, I got to go there. Well, I go back over to behind the DJ booth, and I'm sitting there talking to Scott. And I take a bite. I'm like, what is this garbage? Come to find out, it wasn't chocolate fondue. I had put the gravy over all the stuff on my plate. I thought the chocolate fondue fountain, they had a gravy fountain too there. And apparently I had loaded the thing up with gravy. So that guy thought I was completely nuts, for putting gravy all over, chocolate and fruit and everything. I'm not even a gravy fan. So that was a fun thing. Okay, so Lucas, here's your story. My brain does not function well with foreign languages. Not at all. So in high school, I could BS my way through Spanish class. I had a teacher that liked me, and she liked the fact that I was kind of a bonehead when it came down to Spanish. She liked the fact that I was trying, and I was really funny and boneheaded. And almost every single time where she'd say no less than 10 interactions with your neighbor next to you, and me and this guy named Robbie almost every single time paired up, and our conversation was almost the exact same. It became like what would be considered a meme now. It became a joke in the class that every single time we had a conversation, it was always like, hey, how are you? I'm doing fine. How are you? I'm doing great. What's your favorite color? Red. Really? I like red too. Where do you see red? In the library or in the book? And then it was like a simple question back to that. And then it was like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's really cool. And that was our conversation, but it was in Spanish. And it was almost the exact same every time. But if she said it had to be under a certain theme, we would change like one of the things up. And my teacher, Miss Edmondson, was just always like, just okay. And you know, she was amused because, I was a goofy, prankering kid in class. When I got to college, though, it was immersive. I mean, we're talking like Spanish every single day, where I couldn't just cram all my classes into just Tuesdays and Thursdays anymore. It was now every single day. And I would go to class for 50 minutes every morning, and it was completely immersive. It was completely in Spanish. I'm like, trying to understand what the teacher's saying and catching the gist of it for the first week or so. After that, I could not comprehend much of it at all. It was going way over my head. So it got to the point where all I needed to have was like a Spanish 101 and a Spanish 102 class in order to graduate with my film degree under the quarter system. But the school changed over to the semester system part way. Now, if you were on the quarter system, you could stay on the quarter system, but if you changed over the semester system, it was a benefit. It was less overall hours that you needed to accomplish, but in order to graduate with the film degree, you had to have 4 hours. And it was not 100 level. It was the same exact classes, but they now call them 1000. So it was 1001, 1002, 2001, 2002. It took me probably 4 or 5 times to finish and pass the Spanish class. My GPA in college was pretty good. It was basically a 3.5 average or so. I was usually A's, mostly, sometimes B, until I started picking fights with some teachers that I didn't like, and then I would usually fail their class. And people would always tell me drop out before, it would become a fail. I'm like, no, I paid money.